A little more even keel. You gotta turn this thing up.
Yeah, man. What in the world?
Mine's turned way down. You know I like to yell.
How's that?
That's good.
It's better.
Chili?
Blake, I got one thing to say to you.
Huh. You need to fix yourself, man.
You are a friggin' dummy.
Listen, guys. I've got a few
You're coming
things.
at me with all this freaking stuff, man.
I've got a few things to
you
say.
too, Chili. Don't smile.
Hey, stop talking, Chad. Did you hear I said I need to say something?
Go ahead.
Keep it down.
You don't ever talk on the podcast. Now all of a sudden you want to talk.
Chad comes in and he's just in just a sour as mess mood, just slap soured up like a can of apple juice that's been sitting out in the heat or something. He's fermented is what he is. And
You dang right I'm fermented. I've been through the ringer.
and
Y'all boys are young and fresh. You ain't never had to daggone go through the stuff I've went through.
you know, Chad's real good in the gym.
True.
If you're not doing as good as Chad in the gym, he says, "You better fix yourself, son. You need to get stronger. Fix yourself." And we're in here telling him, "What the crap's wrong with you, Chad?
Look at him.
Why,
He's still on his phone.
why are you so poopy pants today, man? What is wrong with you?" And he's like, "Y'all ain't treating me very nice the way I'm feeling right now." So he wants to respond with just nothing but just brutality when someone else ain't doing good, but when he's a little under the weather, it's all right because that ain't what he's good at. I'm not good at that, so
Look, y'all know-
I ain't got to fix that. That's just hard for me, so it's all right for me to sit here and wallow in my emotions.
Man, nailing it. I mean, hitting the nail on the
Y'all
head.
know who runs this dang podcast, son.
And hold on, I've got more. Listen, let me ask you, Chili.
where did all this come?
Chili, if you are, listen, if you're doing something, say you're working out or running, and you're out front, you're winning, and
I'm not listening, by the way.
nobody is around you, is it all right to slow down because no one else is around you, or should you strive as hard as you can go all the time?
Yeah, that's how you win a race. A lot of people don't know how to win, man. They get out front, and when people aren't winners, it's just the way it is. They're not winners, and they get out.
Go, philosopher Chili.
And they get out in front in a race or something, and they start looking around, going like, "Oh, where is everybody? What the crap? I can't win." I see that all the time.
Yeah, well, let me tell you
You got to keep pushing, man.
Let me tell you a couple examples. The other day,
Golly,
Chad was bragging about his 5K he ran. He won his 5K. He ran a bunch of...
I've won every 5K I've ever raced.
okay.
He ran against a bunch of...
How many 5Ks have you raced?
2.
Yeah, I've raced thousands.
Well, listen, he ran against a bunch of CrossFitters who he says are no good runners anyways.
Well, okay, he won. What'd he run?
A 19...
1910.
That's
Okay.
not bad.
But he said...
I could have ran faster.
He said, I could have ran faster, but I looked around and...
Then you should have ran faster. What do you mean you could have? I could have ran faster every time I've ever ran.
That's what I'm
But
getting
there's
at.
been somebody there to push me.
Yeah,
Listen,
You
boys.
automatically go harder when you can try to go as hard as you think you can go, but you can always go harder if there's somebody there to compete.
You should try to pull that out of you.
It's impossible.
Even with nobody.
It's impossible. You will never reach your maximum potential at a 5K unless there's somebody on your heels.
You should pull that out of yourself.
You can't do it.
Listen, this is what I'm trying to get at.
When
If y'all will
when
listen to
when
me.
you're weak-minded like Chad, you can't.
He's got a thing he needs to work on here because he beat me in a CrossFit workout the other day by 20 seconds, and he wants to act like, you didn't even put out on that workout. I said, oh, good job, old bull, the retired Navy SEAL ultra marathon runner. You beat old Dad Bod Blake over here by 20 seconds. And he said, well, I could have went harder if you'd have been going harder. I
that's
said,
'cause I
you
looked
need to
over there at him."
stop. You need to stop judging your pace off everybody else.
Dang, Blake.
If you can't go against yourself and push yourself, then that's a problem for you, not me.
He was in a bad mood, but dang, we've just turned this into an indictment of him.
Well,
you can push yourself, but you're not going to push yourself as hard as if there's somebody on your heels.
That sounds like something you need to work on because I can.
Well, you just go so slow all the time anyways. Yeah, I'll tell you why I was disappointed in that CrossFit workout because, I was doing this workout, man, and I was, getting after it. And I look over there at you, and you're just freaking taking a break between every rep. And I'm like, well, crap, I'm already ahead of him.
That's what you was doing on push-ups. You didn't even do the V-ups the thing prescribed.
I don't do V-ups.
I don't do CrossFit.
They're too dangerous, ain't they?
Yeah, I ain't trying to get injured.
Yeah. Chad don't do nothing that's dangerous. Yeah. Anything that's hard is dangerous.
Speaking of an indictment, I just started writing my indictment against America yesterday.
Oh, that's good.
I'm 500 words in.
And you started a formal indictment of America?
On biblical grounds.
I like that.
I
didn't know you were doing that.
It's going to be a small book, maybe about 70-something pages. Something
I could read.
I like how he's writing like 5 books at one time. He ain't finished one of them.
I'm going to do my first. I'm writing right now an indictment against America on biblical grounds. Then I'm writing an indictment against the church.
Okay. What? I mean,
I'm just telling you what I got going on. But these are short books. These are for people that like Blake that can't read
like 3-4 pages.
No, like like thin, like 70-something pages.
Well, remember
that you
when
can
I
just
tried
pick
to
up and read in
remember
one
when
go?
I tried to give you a little church history about the Protestant Reformation and you weren't hearing it?
Chad is a Protestant, ain't he?
Oh, he don't.
Yeah.
Don't tell him that.
Where have you been, Chili? You ain't been on the podcast in like a month.
What are you talking about?
It seems like you ain't been on the podcast in a while, man.
Well, don't ask me. I mean,
yeah, he hadn't even been around since we started talking about all that stuff, Blake.
No.
He's the one that started all of it.
The more I think about it, though, he is really a Protestant.
Listen.
Yeah. As I think on it, he even looks like one.
What do you mean I ain't been around? I mean, anyway, that ain't on me.
About the closest thing I got to a Protestant is a prostate.
No, you don't know what you're talking about. But the Protestant Reformation, Martin Luther wrote his 95 thesis and nailed it to the church at Wittenberg. So that's basically what you're doing. The indictment on the church.
Are they theses?
Thesis.
And by the way, what the crap?
Will you turn that daggone phone off, man?
The phone that he's been looking at.
I apologize to y'all that every time you got to get startled by Chad.
I thought this machine just blew up.
I thought there was a fire alarm in here.
I did too.
Good gosh.
What the crap, man?
Well, anyways, I like how this has started out,
And my thesis is going to be in like terms that people can actually read and understand, okay? In other words, my indictment is going to be written in country boy logic terms. That's like that book you got right there, Chili. What is that called? The Mission of God by Joe Boot.
Yep.
Joe is a very intellectual person. And the way that he writes, he uses a lot of big words and stuff that people with low vocabulary like Blake can't quite he can't quite process the concepts within that book because his vocabulary is, like the typical American's vocabulary. There's no common words and slang and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to, I like reading books written the way Joe.
You just can't write them that way.
Well, no, I could write a book that way, but I'm not going to.
He could go harder.
It's just too dangerous to write them that way.
I could do it.
because I want the person that doesn't do a lot of reading to be able to pick my book up and say, okay, I can read this and understand it.
I could run a 5K in 12 minutes, but I just didn't want to.
I am a reader. I mean, I do a lot of reading, and I'm also a writer. I don't do a lot of writing, but I am a reader. And
I'm a runner, and I don't do a lot of running.
if you wanna to up your vocabulary, the best way to do that is by reading books that challenge your vocabulary.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's just a little tip for y'all out there. I have an extensive vocabulary personally, but I choose to speak and write in, just simple terms.
Layman's terms.
Yeah.
Well, I have a much more extensive vocabulary than you. You just don't see it because I've never showed you.
Yeah, right, dude.
I mean, how can you prove
You don't
how can
read
you prove
enough.
me wrong?
Exactly.
You don't read enough.
Prove me wrong.
I proved you wrong when you said you wanted to read that book, but then you tried to read it and you were like, I can't read this book.
I said-
It's got big words in it.
That ain't what I said, you idiot. I said this. I don't like reading these manifesto books. This written this way.
Well,
And
I
you could
think
go
Chili
pull
will
your-
enjoy that book.
You could go get your indictment for America out of the Bible. It's already been written all in there. You
Well,
could just-
that's essentially what I'm doing. It's just compiling.
Oh.
I'm compiling
Plagiarism.
I'm compiling the precepts of the Bible. You know,
as a Protestant, you're going to take that out.
He's going to plagiarize the #1 bestseller of all time. He's going to get away with that.
Look,
no,
Back to the phone.
it will. I'll have the quotes and all in there. I'll make sure when we reference the Bible, you know that it's coming from Scripture. That way, you can at least know that the parts that are referenced in Scripture are true.
Boy, his bibliography, the citations are going to be longer than the book.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I'm not doing any citations or anything.
Oh, okay. So
you just got to put it in quotation marks.
back
Who's going to come at me from plagiarizing the Bible? God.
well, you can actually quote a bunch. I
It's
can't
in
remember
quotations.
The limit. There's a limit. You can put a bunch of the Bible in there without referencing it.
Yeah.
It's
So,
usually in the front of the book.
I'm just letting y'all know that's what I should be at home working on that right now. But instead, y'all have got me hemmed up here.
Well, that's, that piece I just shared with you, that's part of that knowledge I've got about books that you don't really know I've got, that you didn't have, but I'll let you in a little bit on that.
Well, I'll tell y'all why I'm in a sour mood here in just a minute. Because, y'all.
We don't really care. You
No,
need to learn how
no.
to come out of it and quit wallowing in your feelings over there. You look like a hog in a hog wallow, just rolling around, floundering. You like a fish out of water is what you look like.
You're pushing him, Blake. Let us know. I want to know.
Well, y'all talk about our mandate freedom mission here, because we just got off the phone with 2 individuals that have been affected by these mandates and have lost their jobs on count of it. One is a Orange County fireman.
Fire chief.
Was he the chief?
Yep.
Yeah, he was
Battalion
the chief.
chief.
Battalion chief. The other is a nurse, emergency care nurse. So, Blake, what are you sending out $2,000 a piece to them?
Yep.
That money will go out today.
Yeah, and the money, I mean, if you end up being one of the people receiving this, the money could vary. It could be more, it could be less, depending on the funds available. That's what's going out to them. We've raised, up to this point, today is October 26th, and to this point, we've raised about $18,000 through. We now have a GoFundMe set up, so through that, and also through selling shirts, we've got about $18,000 that we are able to donate. So going forward, I know we mentioned before sending DMs to the 307 IG. If you or someone you want them to be nominated, that's how we had said to do it before. But going forward now, what we want you to do is send an email to the number 3 of the number 7 merch at gmail.com. So 3 of 7 merch at gmail.com.
How you spell merch?
MERCH.
Okay.
And in that email, just if you are the one you want that are needing money or needing help through this, then just put your name. If you are nominating somebody else, then please put their name. And then contact number and email would be nice of the person who is being nominated. And that's really it. Aside from that, just maybe a little bit of background on them or you, the story of what's happened, if you've lost your job, why you lost it, just a little bit of background. And then we'll be in touch. Chili's going to be keeping an eye on that and monitoring it, and we'll just probably go through once a week, and however much money we've got, we will select people from that list. We'll reach out to them that day, get some more information, and then we'll disperse the funds that we have available that week. So going forward, that's how we would prefer it be done. Is there anything you'd add, Chili?
No, I think that's good. I mean, we'll and just make it clear we're gonna give as much as we can, and when that does run out, then we won't be able to anymore. But up until that point, we're looking for as many people as we can find to help. So please don't hesitate to send us an email.
Yeah, don't stop pushing the shirts.
Yeah,
we can.
If we keep selling shirts, we'll keep being able to help.
That's it. We haven't been salesmen for our stuff before. We just like it to do its own thing. If you want it, get it, good. If not, it's okay. But I feel comfortable pushing and selling, so to speak, because this is benefiting other people. This is not anything. We're keeping no profits of this. This is nothing from us. So keep selling the shirts. Keep pushing them. If you buy one, post it on Instagram. Share it with your friend, your family, your community, whatever. Because the more we can sell, the more we can donate. And then, like I talked about, we have the GoFundMe set up. And maybe we'll do some kind of story post or something on that. Just post.
I can attach that GoFundMe link in the show notes of this episode right here.
Yeah, that'll be good. That way the link's out there. And so, yeah, that's how we want to do it.
I want y'all to understand what the world this is even all about, right? Look, man, if you are in a career transition, it's tough. It can be scary financially. It can feel overwhelming. I know, because I have had to transition from a stable position in the U.S. military now to what I do now. I understand what transition feels like. And these people that are being forced to transition, and some of these people have dedicated their entire life to serving their community in a fire department, at a police department, as a nurse, to serving their fellow brothers and sisters. All right? Well, look, man, if you don't feel comfortable getting the vaccine, that should be your choice. And you shouldn't have to lose the job, the position, the what you've dedicated your life to. You shouldn't have to lose it because of the choice that you've made as it pertains to this coronavirus vaccine. So don't get this twisted, man. We're not anti-vaccine. Vaccines save millions of people's lives, I'm sure. I've had vaccines for crap I can't even pronounce. I spent so much dang time in Africa, they ran me down an assembly line and hit me with every vaccine in the stinking book. All right? But if you're out here in civilian world and you don't want to get the dang vaccine, that's your choice. And so we want to help our brothers and sisters through this transition period. That's what this is all about, all right?
Yeah, it's no different than if a company said, if you go get that vaccine, you're fired. If I find out you've got the vaccine, you're fired.
Yeah.
Because we don't want vaccinated people working here. It would be, our mission would be the exact same. We would say that's a bunch of crap.
Yeah, that's what this is all about, man. And there ain't no daggone red tape on this.
Right.
There ain't no strings attached to this, all right? We're just doing it. Leave it to Blake and Chili to make it all complicating.
Complicating?
I mean,
you mean by actually putting something out where people can get the money, complicating it that way?
Tried to have it set up before we just dive right into it and have to come up with it on the fly.
It would have took
That's
y'all
freaking
months.
silly.
It would have took y'all months.
No, it took us 5 minutes. We just weren't allowed to beforehand.
Y'all know why.
Ridiculous.
Y'all know the only reason anything happens around here
is because Blake gets stuff done.
Y'all know the only
That's
reason
why.
anything happens? Because the old bull is at the back of the wagon pushing the whole train.
Well, if you want to bring it up, I mean, I thought the beginning was enough, but really, if you want to know why nothing happens until you're ready to do it, is because if anyone else does it, and you're not ready to do it, then you're not going to be pushing nothing, and you're going to say, I wouldn't have done it that way, man. I'd have done it this way, and no, we're not doing it that way. Nuh-uh. So we just wait, and we say, well, whenever Chad's ready to do it, we'll help him get it done.
Look, sometimes...
So if you want to keep it going, just keep on. What else you got?
Look, sometimes these boys, need a push. All right, they've got great intentions, but sometimes you've got to push them into these situations where they're a little bit uncomfortable.
You know, to everybody
All
listening, believe it or not, we're actually a fairly good little team here.
Oh, yeah.
But, boy, you wouldn't know it from listening to this.
Well, it's when you get on the podcast, it's Chad likes to talk about serious things on the podcast.
Well,
you take the microphones away, he don't want to have no serious meetings. It's like when he reprimanded Chili for his individualism at the PT that time. He wouldn't even mention nothing to Chili all day, and the podcast gets turned on, and he just rips him on what he should have ripped him on off the mic.
Well, that's fine. I mean, Chad has set the precedent that we air our grievances on the podcast. Yeah. I don't like it that way, but
the veil is being torn on the podcast.
That's the way we operate.
Jesse Itzler asked me yesterday. He said, I was telling him, he was asking questions about, 307 Project and this and that, and kind of comparing it to as he was coming up as an entrepreneur. And he said, Chad, I don't think that you're the type of person to ever build something out like Marquis Jet or Zico or something like that. He was like, dude, what you're doing is so cool. He was like, when I was building out Marquis Jet and stuff, I was always having to go to meetings and sit through these long meetings and stuff like. He said, do y'all even have meetings? I said, yeah, we record them on the podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
All of our meetings are recorded on the podcast.
Well,
the podcast to me is
it gives the listener the real time opportunity to learn from our mistakes and hear what the world's going on.
Well, that's
around
true.
here.
We have discussions off of the podcast, obviously. I mean, it's not like the only time we talk is when we got microphones, but we don't really have meetings.
No. I appreciate you cutting me off there when I was talking a second ago, Chad. But,
well, whatever you were saying wasn't important.
The podcast is like a therapy session. You can talk about things differently when you have a therapist right there. And the machine is like the therapist to Chad, where
it's a therapist for Chad,
it's
not
the
us.
Third party or entity here at this.
Listeners, y'all can thank me later. Y'all can thank
I
me
wouldn't
later.
do- I wouldn't-
If it wasn't for me, it'd just be a bunch of canned conversation.
No, it
between
wouldn't.
Blake and Chili. It'd just
No,
be
it
a bunch of
wouldn't.
canned
What
conversation.
the crap?
I appreciate you pushing the wagon, man.
There again, I push them into these situations, and I do it to the benefit of the body of 307
It would
Project.
not be canned conversations, but we wouldn't have meetings on here.
Well, Chad is a little beat down, guys. I want y'all to know he's a little beat down this morning. He had some things happen, and he's not real happy. And so we're not building him up, so he needs to build himself up and convince himself that these things are true in order to stop his floundering.
What do you need
He's like a fish out of water, man.
What do you need from us, Chad? What can we do?
Y'all remember when I was pouring
you
cold
get your
water on
dang-
my hot
y'all
feet
can get
because my feet was on fire? That's what you're doing right now. You're pouring cold water on your hot feet because you just
I'll tell you.
are out of shape, man.
I'll tell you what y'all can do.
Yeah.
You can do your freaking jobs.
Okay.
Y'all can do your jobs.
Okay.
Well, now that we're
All
already
right.
doing that, what else can we do?
How would that make you feel if we did our jobs?
It would free me up to write my dang
To go
indictment.
deer hunting. It'd free him
Okay.
up to go deer
I
hunting.
haven't even deer hunted this year, but one time.
So that would make you feel better?
yeah, y'all need to start doing your dang jobs, and
I don't care about how he feels.
You know, I don't need to have to be behind the
I'm his
wagon
therapist.
pushing the wagon.
Okay.
I'm just
Well, you better be glad you got a dang wagon to push, boy.
Yeah, well,
You know,
y'all
I'm
keep
glad.
that thing loaded down so hard I can't hardly push it.
like that old kayak.
I'm glad this ain't coming out nowhere near that podcast we did with Brooks, and you just taint that whole podcast if you release
I'll put this podcast out tomorrow.
No, you won't.
By gosh, if I want to,
I'll lock the darn account down, boy.
I guess I'll do what I want around here.
It will cut your legs off.
Y'all ever heard anything like that?
What you gonna talk about? Anything of any value to anybody today?
Well, y'all talked about the mandate freedom thing.
Well, I guess that's enough said.
All
Then,
right.
ain't it?
Thank you guys for listening. We'll hit you next week.
Well, I'll tell you guys, you know, marriage is a very hard, hard journey in life. But you know, the interesting thing about, I think, marriage that you don't understand, that I think even I don't understand at times, is it's a lot like fitness. So growth only happens through tension, right? We can only get better in fitness, at ultra running, CrossFit, whatever it is. We can only get better by putting tension on our muscles and breaking them down and stressing them, right? Well, I've asked myself many a times, why did God construct marriage the way he did, and why did he make male and female so different? And really, it creates an interesting dynamic in life. It stretches you in different ways, and the construct of marriage will actually force you to grow and become more complete as a husband or wife in areas and in ways that it are otherwise impossible to achieve. Like, marriage will stress you in ways and help you grow in ways where you couldn't get the same stress or the same growth out of any other aspect of life, right? And I think marriage also forces you into situations where not only do you have to lean on Jesus and trust Jesus, but it forces you into situations where you actually have to project his image, the image of Christ within that marriage. And when you are experiencing tension in marriage, it's easy to just say, you know what? This is always hard. What is good about this? What is good about marriage? It in a lot of ways detracts from certain individuals' ability to be productive, to do certain things that they want to do and that they think would be the best thing for them to do, right? Because you have someone else in your life that you have to care for and think of and love. So when people get to that point, they say, what is good about this? So why don't I just quit? And what they don't realize is that the tension they're feeling is actually making them a more complete person, and it's actually molding them into a better image of Christ. It's a strange, strange construct that God has created, this marriage thing.
Well, even aside from that, it's a person that's in your life. Like, you don't really have any, I mean, in a sense, you do have obligation to treat other people that way, but you have not committed yourself to anybody else but that one person. So marriage provides somebody else that you have a contract before God that you have committed yourself to them, and you just don't have a choice in the matter. Like, if it wasn't for you being in that person's life, then they wouldn't have that, and you wouldn't have that from them.
Well, that's it. Because of marriage, the construct of marriage, so it puts someone in your life where there is no one else on the earth that I would react to in the same way I react to my wife. Mm-hmm. If there was anyone else in my life that caused the amount of tension that marriage causes, I would just say, screw that person, whoever it is. I'm not dealing with this.
Yeah.
But because it is an obligation and a commitment and a vow to each other before God, it's a holy thing. It forces you to react to your spouse in the proper way, the way that you should react really to all people.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, even if you said that to someone that you're not married to, it's still really not right.
No, but I'm just being a realist here.
Yeah, but by you being married, you can see what it should be in its purest form and realize that is how you should treat other people as well.
Yeah. So it's a wonderful construct and opportunity for God to shape you, man and woman. I really think that's what it's meant for. I think that's what the whole construct is meant for. And, you know, another thing is, and I'll use a specific example of what happened this morning. Another thing is when you're trying to communicate with each other in marriage, usually what's being said is not really like, it's not up front. It's not really what's happening. Mm-hmm. So like this morning, our dog is not doing well. And last time our dog was not doing well, I was on the paddle mission. And Brooke had to deal with that by herself. And she had to take the dog to the vet. She had to deal with the emotions of it and just the scariness of it and all that all by herself, right? And it was probably, it didn't feel good. It was probably a traumatic thing for her because we love our dogs, and she especially loves this dog. And so she had to deal with all that. I was gone. Well, now I'm home. The dog is not doing good this morning. And so Brooke comes in the bedroom and wakes me up and says, Chad, can you take the dog to the vet this morning? Like, you need to be there when they open so we can get an appointment. And I roll over and I'm like, well, what are you what are you doing today? She's like, oh, I'm going to the gym, then I'm going running, then I'm going to get a massage. And I'm like, well, crap, no, I'm not taking the dog to the vet because, like, I'm also going to go to the gym, then I got to work the rest of the day. So that's the problem I'm dealing with right now. What was actually happening, I'm sure, and I haven't talked to Brooke about this because she's not talking to me right now.
That's probably a good idea. You know, just come on here and talk about it.
Well,
when you haven't even talked to her about it.
Yeah,
that's a top notch idea right there.
Y'all get it raw on here, man. See, I'm not afraid. I ain't afraid to put the word out.
It ain't about being afraid. It's about being smart.
Look,
Good
man.
gosh.
I ain't trying to be smart.
I know.
I'm trying to be real. What probably should have been said this morning was, hey, Chad, last time I had to take Jada to the vet, it was hard for me to do that by myself. And I don't want to have to go through that again. Can you take her this time for me so I don't have to go through the feelings and the emotions of that again? Right? So you see how the question's different?
Did you know that at the time?
No. That's the thing. When you get woke up out of sleep, the first thing you see, you're taking on board what's being said, and you're like, okay, you're telling me not to go do my workout this morning so you can go do your workout this morning. When that's not real, that's what's being said, but that's not actually what's happening, right? Mm-hmm. So no, I didn't. This morning I just processed what was being said. Like, no, like if you had a legitimate reason that you couldn't take the dog to the vet, then I would take the dog to the vet. But you have no legitimate reason why I shouldn't carry on about my day, right? So that's the decision I made, which was quite obviously the wrong decision.
You made a logical decision.
Yes. So, you know, after then, now I've talked to PN today for about an hour, and he's the one that's told me about how all this works. And so, you know, I'm saying if we would communicate in a more raw form with each other, it would be much easier to make decisions. In other words, if I'm experiencing something that is emotionally painful, if I would just come to you and just say, hey, this was really hard for me, and I don't want to have to go through it again today because it's gonna affect me. Can you share that burden with me? Like then the answer is a no-brainer. But we don't communicate with each other in a raw way like that, which leads us to seeing the situation for what it isn't actually, and then you make the wrong decision, and you make each other mad.
Well, okay, listen, I'm not married, and no one needs to take marriage advice from me. But if I'm hearing you correctly, you have a way that you feel that y'all could communicate better, have you communicated that to her? Have you communicated to her, hey, I think this way of communicating would be better. Let's try this.
No, because I haven't got to talk to her today.
I mean, you've had forever to do that. I'm saying
No,
like...
I just learned this today.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that would be a good idea to start. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, but...
You just learned that you should communicate what you're thinking and not what you're thinking?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like I'm really good at communicating in raw form. Huh. I mean, how many times do I come to you guys and say, don't freaking talk to me today because I am not in the mood for anything.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like I'm really, and I'll even tell you why. I'll, you know, I do all, I feel like, am I not good at communicating the raw form?
Well, with us, but are you doing that, you know, are you?
Oh yeah. I think I do that with Brooke too. Yeah.
Well, does she receive it like we receive it?
Most of the time. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, because me and Blake can handle that.
Yeah.
But if she is different than us in the way she communicates, then part of that is you have to accommodate her communication style and she has to accommodate yours to an extent. I mean, that's the way I see it working. Now, communication seems to be the most important aspect of any relationship. So that's why I feel like I can say that because I'm not married. But any relationship, it seems to be very important that you're on the same page with that. So,
well, I mean, that's good. You need to communicate that way. But
I'm not saying you need to communicate that way. I'm saying communication working well is important.
I mean, communication's great, and you should. I mean, I agree with everything Chad says that if you can,
I don't even
communicate how you're feeling in just its raw form, then that helps the person you are talking to. It helps them process it in their mind.
It lets them know how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So then that way they can't just imply that you're asking them to not do something that they had planned to do so you can do something you had planned to do.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying, but then there's a whole nother thing that I think of is like, if you can do it, just do it. And if she, you know, to trust that she's not trying to get one over on you by saying, hey, I want to get this workout in, I'm going to make Chad go to the vet. Like, if you trust that she's not going to do that, then I'm not saying that I wouldn't have done the same thing that you're doing. I'm just thinking of this outside. Like, if you're wanting to know how she's feeling so that you can justify whether it would be good or not. You're trying to make your own decision of whether or not you should go help her do this based off of how she feels or based off of if she's trying to get one over on you.
I trust her enough that I don't think she would use that form of communication as something to manipulate me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I trust her. Yeah. Enough. Yeah. The thing is here, also, this may not work for all of you, this form of raw communication. It works well for me because my mind has about just one track. You got to hit it. You got to hit it with the raw dump. If you try to hit me, with some stuff that have some existential bull crap to it, I'm not going to see your existential stuff.
You can't see the subtext.
I'm not going to see your subtext, all right?
Yeah. And you're not...
PN reads all the subtext. I don't read subtext. I read what you give me.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I am, man. The point in this conversation is to tell you, Chili's uncomfortable as crap over here,
no,
man.
I don't,
he, you know, like I said, if it was up to him, he would just have a bunch of canned conversation.
Listen,
on
man,
here.
It's like, what do you think you sound like right now? I mean, you're not saying a lot of information, but what it sounds like is you have a different communication style than Brooke does. So that's that's on both of you to work out how y'all need to talk to each other.
Well, yeah. What would have been wrong?
That's the point.
What would have been wrong?
Yeah, but like, do you accommodate her style or whatever you want to call it at all?
Listen, this is meeting in the middle. When Brooke comes to you with that, I know you don't like to hear nothing when you wake up, so it's never going to happen.
Yeah,
first
he keeps
thing
going,
in the
I don't
morning.
like this. I don't talk like this. I got a one-track mind. Well, how does Brooke handle things? How does her mental process work? If it's different than yours, you have to somehow...
Well, if you know that her communication is not that way, then you say, like, yeah, I mean, I could take her this morning, Brooke, but I had planned to do this. Is there a reason that you can't take her this morning? And then it might have came out that, yeah, I mean, I could take her, Chad. I've got these things planned, and it was real tough on me last time when you were out of town, and it's just a lot for me to deal with. You know, if you could take her, that'd be great. It may not have went that way, but if you realize that she doesn't communicate the way you like, then you have to ask questions to pull out of her whatever information you need.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it seems like you were wanting honesty from her. Like you were wanting her to say that, if that was the case. You were wanting her to say, hey, this was hard for me the last time. Can you do this? Were you honest with her by saying like, hey, you're just asking me to go to the vet at 7 o'clock and that ticks me off?
Well, the conversation didn't reach that. Didn't get to that point. It was just kind of like she just loaded up and left, and now it is what it is. But the point of this conversation is to tell you that you cannot grow in any aspect of your life without some sort of tension. So if you are also experiencing tension in your marriage, don't do what most people do and just say, this freaking sucks, man. I'm out.
Yeah.
That's what happens. Understand that the tension is actually there for a purpose, to help you grow in your faith, your relationship with Jesus, to help you grow in your ability to be his ambassador and be an image of him here on earth. It's here to help you grow in really many aspects. So that's what I wanted to put out, man.
Well, the tension's only there if you honor the commitment that you've made, right? Because if you don't, like, that's why the tension's there, because you're honoring that commitment. And if you don't, just like Chad said, you could say, hey, I'm out, and that clips the string. I mean, you can't say that, because a broken commitment on earth, on paper, there's still a contract up in God's eyes that you made. Just because you signed a legal document that says you're divorced, you're really not divorced. You might be earth legally, but there's still a contract in heaven that has you two married. And that's why, I mean, it's a whole nother discussion. That's why, in my opinion, I'm not going to get down there.
No, I mean, you are right. The Bible literally says that if you marry a woman that who has been divorced, you are committing adultery.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, it's hey, that's hard to come to terms with.
Yeah,
like that's tough to reconcile with that. I understand that, man, but that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I mean that's a deep discussion. It's not deep, but it's a long discussion. We can go down, but that is it. There is still, the Bible talks about acceptable reasons for divorce, right? There's a few in there, but you have signed a contract or agreed to a contract in two places when you get married, one in heaven and there's one on earth. Just because you break the one in earth for a reason that is not in the Bible doesn't mean that it's also broken in heaven, and that's how I view it.
Well, the reason that this discussion is interesting for me being not married, is my parents. You talk about the tension, and I know a lot of people are like, well, man, you grow up, and it's not like you're gonna see every fight that they've ever had, and because they could keep that from you. And I'm not saying I saw them 24/7. Obviously, I'm not. But I'm telling you, man, they didn't fight. I've told you this before. It's strange to me, basically, how they never fought. And I'm not saying they didn't disagree about stuff or whatever, but I mean, essentially, they never fought, and it's befuddling to me how that's the case, because it's like I never see anybody else have that. They say that, and I think what I've thought about over time as I've analyzed how they are as parents to me and how they were as a married couple is that, man, my dad is literally the most selfless person that I've ever met. And the way they would communicate and their relationship, I mean, I think it was just, I mean, personally, it's the picture of the most perfect union it's the closest thing to a perfect union on earth as I think you could even have. I mean, it's you know, so I agree that tension is needed, but it's like the way that they could not like skirt around it or avoid it. It just wasn't there. It's amazing to me. I don't know.
Well, if you have two selfless people, there's not going to be much tension because they're going to see, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to set myself aside and help this person out, and whether it's justified or not. And then you do that enough, and the other person will eventually become selfless because they're like.
That's the thing is it wasn't just my dad that was selfless. I mean, my mom is the most selfless. Same thing, the most selfless person you could ever meet. I mean, they both were that way raising me, and they were both that way with each other and their time. I don't know. It was just amazing. It seems like that's the quality. If you could pin one down that I've seen, selflessness helps a lot of things. And I have a hard time with that, being selfless. And maybe that's partially because I'm an only child or whatever, but I don't know. I've had the model that they set for me with that is, I mean, I have no excuse. And I don't know. That's just.
Well, I think you're right, Chili. I think there are certain personal attributes that help an individual participate in a marriage in a much less tense manner. I would say also another thing that's been challenging for Brooke and I has been the lifestyle that we live. So we have personal attributes, and then we also have lifestyles that can really put stress on a marriage relationship. And with me, I mean, my lifestyle ever since we got married creates a lot of tension, man, because I've always been one that goes hard, that gets front sight focused on something, that's always on the road, always traveling. That's just been the lifestyle. And that crap is freaking tough, man, on a marriage. Not many of them make it through. So I think I'm probably lacking certain personal attributes, and I have probably been called to a very hard lifestyle in comparison with some others. Other options. Because I would lie to you if I didn't think about this sometimes. I think, why don't I just go down here across the road at the state park and get me a job with the state cutting grass for $40,000 a year? I could literally ride my bicycle down there, do a thing or two, make the park pretty, ride my bicycle back home. Like, there's no like that. There is a piece of that is appealing.
Yeah.
But that's not the life that I think I was called to live.
Well, no, the tension then would be that you're doing that inconsistent with what you were called to be. That would be the tension. Like, that sounds great because it gets rid of all these issues you have to deal with doing what you're doing now, but then the roles are just flipped. Like, you say, well, now I'm going to take away all these issues, but I'm going to have one issue that is tremendous. It's just one issue, but it's much bigger than all the other little ones I was dealing with.
I know, it's weird, man. It's weird because in a sense, if I went that route, it wouldn't be quitting. I would essentially be choosing a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
But for me personally, because I feel so strongly that I was called to be out in the mix, like that's who God made me to be. For me, it actually would be quitting. It would be quitting on what I know I was called to do.
Well,
if I wasn't so sure that this is who I'm supposed to be in order to fulfill my path, right? If I wasn't so sure about that, then choosing a different lifestyle for the sake of just, taking some pressure off, that's not quitting, man.
Sometimes quitting is relative because
exactly.
It's in comparison with who you know you should be.
Yeah.
Well, what would be what's appealing of that change if you were to do that would be that you think it would be easier. But I think what Blake's getting at is it wouldn't be. There'd be a whole new set of problems.
Yeah.
You know, like it just seems like on the surface where you're at now, doing what you're doing now, that just seems easy. Because how you even described it, the day-to-day would just be, I'd just ride my bike down there, cut a little grass, ride back. That ain't what it would look like. I mean, you'd have problems all the time that you can't see now.
It's the whole grass is greener.
Yeah,
on the other
I mean, so... And not to mention that you've never lived a lifestyle like that. So if you did it for about 2 weeks, you'd go, good gosh, I'm bored to death.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
So, yeah.
They ain't paying me but $40,000 and I'm spending 80 hours down here.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, man. It's just to let you know, we all struggle with that appealing thought that stepping outside the boundaries of who you know you were called to be and the job you know you were called to do here on earth, stepping outside of the boundaries of that may look appealing, even to me. But we're going to keep on keeping on, son. I want to hear about Chili's races. Chili's been racing. I got to pee real quick. Tell the people about your races.
I didn't want...
While I'm not here to listen
Serve
to
up
it.
the salad.
Yeah, well, I didn't really... I don't know, man.
Chili.
I didn't want to talk about him.
Too bad.
Well, he's already out of here. He went to go pee, so if he ain't going to ask me any questions about him, I'd just assume not talk about him.
When he gets back in, you can be at the end of it and just be like, and I just ran.
Yeah.
I finished around 100 miles. That was good.
I will say this, though, that when we got off the paddle trip, I raced the weekend that we got home. I guess, we got home on a Wednesday, raced that Saturday, and that was to help not help, but be there for my brother Nathan Darty. He listens to the podcast. He was a teacher at my high school. He taught me for 2 years actually in high school, and he's just a great guy. And then the next weekend I did another race in Alabama, and I met so many 307 people. It was crazy. It blew my mind. So that's what was good about it. And I will mention that, but that's about all I'm going to say.
My heroes have always been cowboys.
And they still
are, you saints. Sadly in search of
one step in back of themselves and their slow moving dreams.
You know what song's been in my head? Oh, The Good Time's Really Over by Haggard.
Oh, yeah.
Sing it for us.
No.
Just sing it for us real quick.
I don't sing.
How does that one start?
I wish a buck was still silver.
I don't sing, though.
It was back when the country was strong. Yep, that's a good one, man.
Yep.
It's funny to hear. That was Merle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny to hear Merle singing about that stuff. Way back then, he had a little bit too much hope, though, didn't he? There at the end.
Yeah, that's what we were. I
overshot it there.
I
at the
listened
end.
to that song and I think, dang, Merle was ahead of his time. And then at the end, he's got that glimmer of hope, and I'm like, well, nope. You got to crush that, Merle.
America's always had that glimmer of hope,
Yeah.
and it's finally gone.
Time to fade that on out, Merle.
Is Merle dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, Merle passed on, man.
That was
before
a few
he could
years
edit
ago.
the lyrics to that one.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I didn't hear what Chili said about his races. Probably wasn't very important anyways, but that's mainly what I wanted to share on the podcast today was tension comes through. I mean, growth comes through tension, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually. So
And marriagely.
Yeah. So don't quit. And I'm gonna keep pushing this cart, man.
It's now went from a wagon to a cart.
I'm gonna keep pushing.
Well, you are the pale horse. So are you in front of it or behind it?
Oh, I'm behind it.
No, I think you're in front of it.
No, I'm
we're
behind
sitting in the cart.
Eating our lunch.
Yeah, sitting there just guiding you
Well,
on them reins.
why do you think I turned you into a megastar?
Don't start this crap. Don't start this crap. I'm not a megastar.
Hey.
You really irritate me with that.
We just keep whipping Chad. I towel snapped him in the gym the other day before the workout. Got him right in the ribs.
You know,
Towel
I
snap.
don't even know why y'all even work with me. I can't even believe y'all haven't kicked me out of the business.
We love you.
We love you, Chad.
Good
Even though
gosh.
you irritate the fire out of me.
I would hate to know that I had to work with another man that was just ornery and emotional all the time. I'd hate to know, and he could beat the ever living snot out of me at any minute that he wanted to, at his choosing, knowing
How do you deal working with me then?
knowing that he could just whoop the tar out of me at any minute. if he wanted
Legitimate
to.
question. How do you work with me then? You just described me perfectly.
I mean, you guys have to work with an unstable person that could literally just beat the tar out
You're
of
describing me.
When you lose care for any of that stuff, it don't matter. Like someone comes in and they're grumpy, you're like, okay, who really cares? I'm gonna keep doing what I do. And when they beat you, it's like, I mean, what's new? Who cares? It's really pretty easy.
It's scary for you guys.
You're
to
essentially describing me. I'm mentally unwell, but I could also beat you at anything, anytime I ever wanted to.
even for you guys just to come into work, it's a big risk to come into work around me.
Well, this is funny.
This is why we can't just hire anybody.
You remember when we was eating at Moe's that time and that dog was barking? And we sitting out on this patio at Moe's Barbecue here in Rome, and we're eating. These people next to us have this little chihuahua, and it's just barking and barking.
Best thing
and
ever.
Chad he's getting mad about it, and it finally gets a little slack in its leash, and it comes over toward him and starts barking. And it makes Chad so mad. He grits his teeth, and you'd see his jaw muscles sticking out, and he makes his eyes real big and flares his nostrils out. And he just,
he started
all
barking
that,
at it.
all that he describes just there, all that emotion came to the surface, and he looked at those people and he said, I got PTSD, and this dog's lighting me up right now. And they pulled that dog in. About 5 seconds later, they packed their table up, threw their food away, and just left
Got up and left.
immediately.
I
how
don't
you
do
get
well.
crap.
I don't do well with disrespectful people.
That's how you get crap done.
Yeah. Don't come in around me disrespecting me in public.
No,
I
I ain't with that crap either.
So all
That's
that
why I don't
stuff-
go out in public much.
All that emotional, unstable, angry, ornery, mentally, all that came to the surface when that dog was barking at him, son.
Chad's emotionally unwell. I'm probably mentally unwell. And what are you, Blake? You're just put together.
No,
You're physically unwell.
I'm just. I'm equally unwell. I'm unwell at the same amount always.
He's
Never
not
more, never
too.
less.
He's not too unwell in any
Yeah.
one spot.
That's good.
You know that Matchbox 20 song? I'm not crazy. I'm just a little unwell.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know that either, but
Well, y'all don't like music.
know
Losers.
how silly you are listening to Matchbox 20
Losers.
now. Well, I hope y'all got a lot out of that conversation right there, man.
Well, there's a lot to get out of it.
Yeah,
I mean, gosh.
I really hope y'all do. And, we would ask you to share this episode with anyone that you know that's mentally unwell as we are so that they will know they're not alone.
If there's any episode you don't share, if there was ever one you just said, I just don't have time to share it, just let this be that one. If you share everyone, just continue sharing. But there was ever a time you thought, I just can't share a 3 or 7 episode, just please let it be this one.
there's marriage advice from an unmarried 22-year-old and stories of mentally unstable dinners or lunches, whatever that was.
I don't even know what to title this thing, man. And maybe we'll title this one, What Chad Thinks About David Goggins. Blake's been waiting to title an episode that for a long time.
Chad was
Clickbait.
bragging on Brooks' podcast. He was bragging about he was bragging about beating me at that workout by 20 seconds and how nobody could beat him. And I said, you wait till I get David Goggins down here for a CrossFit workout. You want somebody to beat you?
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
All right.
Close
it up.
Yeah, we're at an hour here, 59 minutes. So let's shut her on down, guys. That was a good comms check right there. I hope y'all enjoyed that. Let us know what you thought about this conversation. We love y'all. Nuff said.